UFC 322 was the best fight card of 2025. We saw two masterclass performances, one of them from the greatest women's fighter of all time, defending her belt against another one of the greatest women's fighters of all time in a fight that wasn't even remotely close. We also saw the pound for pound best fighter on the planet go up in weight and take for himself a second belt, making him possibly the best MMA fighter of all time. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I know some people thought that the main and co-main event were a little bit boring. I myself didn't. Maybe that's because I'm a big fan of the two fighters that won. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but there were some spectacular moments on the rest of the card, some brilliant KOs that we'll talk about in a second here. But as always, I want to cover absolutely every single fight that happened yesterday. So if you guys want to skip around, there will be timestamps down below in the description. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. And with that all out of the way, let's get into the breakdown. So we're actually going to skip the first fight of the night because I didn't catch it. Apologies for that, but I also didn't cover it in my prediction video, so it's not the biggest loss in the world. The first fight of the night saw Mateus Camilo beat Vasyslav Borashev in a decision. Like I said, missed that one, so let's talk about the first fight of the night that I actually did watch, which was the middleweight bout between Basangur Susurkayev taking on Eric MAKHACHEV. Now, this fight was so damn annoying, man, because Susurkayev is such a fucking idiot, man. This kid, I know he's 24, so we can kind of apologize for some of his immaturity for that reason, but this kid needs to grow up, and he needs to take every single opponent that he goes in there with seriously. You cannot be playing with your food in the UFC. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, if you were fighting on the early prelims, you would have a guy in front of you that was maybe not the greatest fighter in the planet. Maybe you could take your time with him, play with him a little bit, but in today's UFC, everyone on the card from the early prelims all the way to the top is absolutely elite. They're world-class fighters. They're phenomenal. They're so talented. You cannot play with your food, and Basangur Susurkayev did that in this fight, and he got rocked a couple times. He got touched up here and there, didn't find the success that he wanted to early on, eventually finished the fight in the third round via TKO, but man, this kid could have had a knockout in round one if he focused up. I think he's coming into the UFC thinking that he's going to run over people like Chimaev. The difference between Basangur Susurkayev and Chimaev is when Chimaev came into the UFC, he came in with a ferocity that he wanted to finish every single fight as fast as possible, not take a single punch, and basically put on a flawless performance every single time. And he did that for quite a few fights. Susurkayev, on the other hand, playing with his food and the striking a little bit more, trying to find the one-shot KO. That's not how you fight. That reflects a very poor fight IQ. I think he needs to work on that. I think if there's one thing that's lacking in his game, it is his maturity and his fight IQ. On the other hand, he is one of the most talented fighters on the roster. He has elite striking, one of the best front kicks I've seen in a long time, maybe since Machida or Silva. Amazing front kick. He is devastating with his striking. He's got amazing power, great precision. He's a great ground fighter too, fantastic wrestling. But he just hasn't put it all together. He hasn't found that maturity yet. He hasn't found that drive maybe. Maybe he needs to take a loss or something like that, but I don't know, man. At 11-0, I want him to keep that undefeated record, but at the same time, this kid needs to face a little bit more adversity in there. He needs to wake up, and he needs to take these fights more seriously because he's in the UFC now. You cannot be taking any of these fighters lightly, no matter who they are. So, kind of a good and bad performance there by Susurkayev. We'll move on from that one. Next up, we have a women's strawweight bout between Angela Hill and Fatima Klein. This one, I don't have too much to say. Going into it, I said that there was a big gap here. Angela Hill was 40 years old coming into this fight. Her opponent was 25, 15-year age gap. Her opponent looks like a very dominant, up-and-coming prospect with great striking. She's now 9-1, and she just put it on Angela Hill. The striking wasn't even close. Total strikes, 152 to 65. Significant strikes, 115 to 56, and 4 takedowns for Klein, none for Hill. So it was just a completely dominant performance for Klein. And I hope that she gets a big fight now in the future. We need that strawweight division to move a little bit more. Maybe Wei Li will come back down to that division. So we need some new challengers. So we'll see what she does in the future. But great performance for her. I would like to see Angela Hill hang them up now. 40 years old, you're not going to really challenge for a belt. So I don't really see the point in continuing to fight. But we'll see what happens with her. Moving on, we had a featherweight bout between Pat Sabatini and Chepe Mariscal. And this was one of the better fights of the night. I really enjoyed this one. Going into it, I said, I'm not the most familiar with either of these guys, but I learned a lot through this fight. Pat Sabatini, I highlighted in my prediction video, was a D1 wrestler, black belt in jiu-jitsu, phenomenal ground game, and he came into this fight and he proved that. He got 7 out of 12 takedowns. His significant strikes, 12-7, not too much there. Total strikes, 40-48, so he was outstruck in total, but you could tell throughout the fight that he was dominating, controlling. Chepe tried to make it interesting, especially with those dirty little eye pokes that he was trying to sneak in there. Didn't do much, though, and I think the decision was the correct one here. Pat Sabatini definitely won this fight, and it was a pretty fun fight. I liked this one, and I hope Pat Sabatini gets a big fight in the future because he's 35 years old. He's kind of towards the end of his career, but he is an elite fighter. You watched it in that fight. This guy can probably hang with some of the top 15 fighters, so I'd like to see him get a big opportunity after this. Maybe not a top 15 guy, but somewhere just outside of that. And yeah, fantastic performance by him. Moving on to our early prelim headliner, we had a middleweight bout between Kyle Daukaus, I can't pronounce his name, I apologize, and GM3, Gerald Meerschaert. I know him, he's been around for a while. Daukaus was in the UFC for a bit, left and then came back, and in his first fight back, knocked out Michel Pereira very, very quickly. I thought it was a fluke, so in this fight, I took GM3. My prediction was horrible. I thought, GM3, he's the better grappler. He's going to get the submission. This is going to be two jiu-jitsu guys laying on the ground for most of the fight. Not what happened. I couldn't have been more wrong about this fight. I have no problems admitting that. Kyle came in and he showed out, man. Tremendous performance. Don't let his awkward physique fool you. He came out there and did a little, what did John Anik call it? Club and sub. Knocked him on the head, took him down, and then just found the choke there. I think it was a Darce choke that he got him with. He is called the Darce Knight, I believe is his nickname. And it was a fantastic performance. You know, go in there, get the guy out of there in less than a minute. That's how you want to do it. So hopefully he gets another big fight after this. Great to see guys who come into the UFC, maybe a little young, maybe a little bit green, don't do so well, leave, get the experience, find themselves, come back to the UFC, and find new success. I love seeing stories like that, so hopefully this guy gets a big fight in his next one. That concludes our early prelims. Let's move on now to the regular prelims. Kicking off our regular prelims, we had a featherweight bout between Malcolm Wellmaker and Ethan Ewing. That's not the fight that I predicted. In my prediction video, he was supposed to go up against another fighter that I'm blanking on the name right now, but he had a broken foot or something last minute, 24 hours notice. Ewing steps in here, first fight in the UFC officially, and puts on a tremendous performance. Fight of the night, I think. I think this was the best fight of the entire night. Wellmaker did great. You know, he looked sharp in there. He was landing punches, but he was loading up. You know, he's just looking for one big hook, one big shot, and he might have been able to time that on an opponent that he prepared more for, but going up against a guy like Ewing, especially a great boxer like this kid is, he couldn't find those shots. He hit him with a couple good things. He had his moments, but for the most part, it was Ewing putting on the volume, putting on the boxing clinic. He had more precision throughout the fight, and man, he showed out in this one. I'm a big fan of this kid. I can't wait to watch him fight next. Wellmaker, still like you, kid. You know, sometimes when you're in the UFC and you're a big hype prospect and you have that undefeated record, sometimes you take a loss, and that's okay. I like to see how fighters bounce back from that, right? We saw Talbot take a loss. We saw him bounce back from it. He's now taking on Henry Cejudo coming up soon. That's going to be a big fight. Wellmaker, hopefully he bounces back from this KO and goes on to do great things in the division because he is an incredibly talented fighter. I think he just needs to take a little bit more time, set his shots up, use his jab a little bit more, and maybe work on his footwork a little bit defensively. His footwork going forward is great, but defensively, he was getting hit with some shots that he should have been out of the way for. So great fight. I thought this was fight of the night. Fantastic performance by Ewing. Like I said, incredibly excited to see what he does next in the UFC. Moving on, we had a women's flyweight bout, which was a rematch. Many of you guys probably didn't see this fight. I know I didn't. The first time they fought, Erin Blanchfield was 19 years old. It was in Invicta. I kind of stopped watching Invicta after the UFC got their women's divisions. Before the UFC had women's divisions, I watched a little bit of Invicta, but I haven't watched it in years. So this was actually a rematch. Erin Blanchfield goes in there against Tracy Cortez and absolutely dominates her. First round is a little bit close, but I think Blanchfield still won it. Second round, she gets the submission there. Absolutely phenomenal. I don't know how she got that rear naked choke from that angle, but it was great. Awesome to see. I think Blanchfield is going to be a fun contender for Valentina Shevchenko. She's a nice, strong girl, stocky, can take a punch and can maybe make it a fun fight. I don't know if it'll be a very interesting fight because we just saw Valentina Shevchenko dominate Wei Li, who was dominant, so dominant for many, many years. So we'll see, but a good performance for Blanchfield. Hopefully she gets either the title shot or a big fight after this. Moving on, we had a middleweight bout between Roman Kopylov and Gregory Rodrigues. This one, I picked Kopylov to win, I believe, because I thought that he had a little bit more precision in his striking, a little bit more accurate. And I thought that he had more tools going into this, but he didn't showcase them. He actually got stunted by the power a little bit and slowed down throughout the fight. I thought in the third round he could have won that round if he put his foot on the gas a little bit more. The second round was close. He had some moments, but man, Kopylov had to let his hands go. I know he was timid at what was coming back his way, but this is one of those fights where he should have won it. And I think the last fight was like that too against Paulo Costa. He should have won that one too. If this guy wants to challenge for a belt one day, he needs to put his foot on the gas a little bit more. I highlighted it in my prediction video. This guy has a lot of knockouts, but only one of them came in the first round. He needs to find a way to put his foot on the gas a little bit quicker and to get on top of guys, especially guys like Gregory Rodrigues. You do not want that guy starting out strong early. Rodrigues did a fantastic job in this fight, just keeping him at distance, hitting him with big shots when he needed to, and he didn't really have to do too much to win this fight. He started to gas out a little bit in the third round, but we expect that from Rodrigues, and yeah, great performance by him. This was a fun fight as well. Let's move on now to the prelim headliner, which was a middleweight bout between Bo Nickel and Rodolfo Vieira, and this fight was fantastic. Of course, as a Bo Nickel fan, I was very happy with the outcome. Going into this fight, I was saying that if this goes to the ground, Bo Nickel's going to be in a lot of trouble. Rodolfo Vieira is one of the greatest jiu-jitsu fighters of all time. He's fantastic on the ground. They call him the black belt killer for a reason. It didn't go to the ground. There was no takedowns that Rodolfo Vieira could really land. In the clinch, it didn't get close to a takedown. So Vieira didn't really have anything on the feet. He's kind of a power puncher, but he takes a while to get to his target. He's not technically that proficient on the feet, and Bo Nickel kind of just played with him the whole fight. He got more confidence as the fight went on, and he started to set things up. And then in the third round, he set up a beautiful head kick, knocking him out clean. A precise head kick. He only needed the one shot. It was kind of like the skull-killed knockout a few weeks ago. And then he hops up on the cage, flips off the Madison Square Garden crowd because, well, they were booing him last time he was at MSG, mainly because he put on a kind of a boring fight against Paul Craig. And when you're this hyped of a prospect, they kind of expect you to go out there and have flashy, fast knockouts or submissions. Bo Nickel is capable of knockouts, and I never thought he would be able to get a head kick knockout, but he did in this fight. If he continues down this path of increasing his striking proficiency, I think eventually this guy's going to be maybe a knockout artist at 185, mainly because the threat of the takedown's always there and people are going to have their hands a little bit low expecting the takedown, and he's going to land big shots. He's got power in his hands. He's got power in his legs now too, as we know, and I think he's going to be an incredible fighter at this weight class as he gains more confidence, as he gets more used to the UFC. We're going to see him with more finishes, and he's going to be a very exciting fighter to watch. And in my opinion, maybe the only middleweight fighter that can actually challenge Khamzat Chimaev in the wrestling. If you asked me before Bo Nickel came to the UFC, who's a better wrestler between Chimaev and Bo Nickel, I would say Bo Nickel. You look at their resumes on paper, he's done more in the sport of wrestling than Chimaev has. But you watch them wrestle in the UFC, and Chimaev is much more dominant with his wrestling than Bo Nickel is. Is that a confidence issue? Is that a veracity issue? Maybe Khamzat Chimaev is more violent when he's in there. That's probably the case. We'll have to see how the wrestling plays out when they actually fight. I won't know until then, but that's one fight that I really want to see. So hopefully Bo Nickel keeps winning in this division. He put on a fantastic performance last night. Awesome to see. Cut a good promo too. So this main card was not only for me the fight card of the year, at least the main card of the year. It's one of the best main cards I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, that's probably because I'm a little bit biased, and I am a huge fan of Islam Makhachev. I'm a huge fan of Valentina Shevchenko. So maybe that's why I loved this card so much. I know that some people thought that the main and co-main event were a little bit boring, but if you've gone to jiu-jitsu class, if you've done some grappling in your life, I don't think you can find those performances dull at all. If you've never done grappling, if you absolutely hate it, anytime the fight goes to the ground, you start booing or you start talking with your friends or not paying attention because you're like, oh, they're just lying on the ground. then sure, yeah, maybe the main event and co-main event weren't that interesting to you. But as someone who's trained grappling for many, many years, it's so entertaining to watch Valentina grapple. I know that she's dominating most of the time. Maybe she's not doing the most damage most of the time, but there's a battle playing out there. And if she loses one little position, Wei Li could flip it around. And like, there's so much going on in the grappling exchanges. And I feel like you can't exactly grasp it unless you've done some grappling. So I'll just leave it at that, because I found the main event and the co-main event very entertaining. I didn't think that they were boring like the Khamzat Chimaev Dricus du Plessis fight, where there was literally no damage being done. It was literally just one guy sitting on top of another guy. In these two main events, at least there were some submission attempts. There was some ground and pound here and there. There was a little bit of entertaining sequences on the feet and stuff like that. So I thought that these fights were rather fun. Maybe they weren't as entertaining as an Alex Pereira fight, but man, not everybody can be Alex Pereira. But we did see 3 fantastic knockouts, Pereira-esque knockouts in the first 3 fights on the main card. So let's talk about those first. The first one was at lightweight between Beneil Dariush and Benoit Saint-Denis. And going into this fight, I thought that this was going to be fight of the night. I thought it was going to go 3 rounds. I thought it was going to be back and forth. I thought Beneil Dariush's chin was going to hold up against Saint-Denis' power. I thought the ground game was going to be interesting because they both have fantastic jiu-jitsu. But no, this fight ended in 16 seconds. Beneil Dariush went in there, landed a beautiful leg kick, kind of knocked Benoit Saint-Denis down, got overzealous, and then got knocked out with one shot. Face planted on the ground. His head hit the canvas in kind of a brutal way. Arms flailed out, didn't even stop his fall. And the ref called the fight there. And that was one of the most spectacular knockouts of the entire year. I don't know if I can give it knockout of the year. We still have that, Lerone Murphy spinning back elbow knockout. We have some more impressive knockouts. The roofie knockout of Bobby Green, I think that happened at the very beginning of the year. We have a couple of knockouts that were a little bit more impressive in the techniques that were implemented. But as far as time and as far as opponent, I don't know if I've ever seen at least this year, I've never seen a fight end this quickly on the main card. So this is one of the best knockouts of the year. It was fantastic to watch, being a Benoit Saint-Denis fan, of course. Moving on, we had a welterweight bout between Leon Edwards and Carlos Prates. Now, I said in my prediction video that I was going to be flipping back and forth on this one so much that maybe out of all the fights on the card, this was the hardest one for me to call. And going into the fight, I actually changed my prediction. Now, I'm not saying that to get the prediction right now. I'm saying that because I actually did change my prediction after watching the press conferences leading up to this fight. After watching the face-off, which happens just a day or two before the fights, my prediction video was already out at that time, so I wasn't able to give you guys my updated prediction, but I did change my mind. I did change to Carlos Prates' side after seeing how much confidence he had in the press conference, after seeing them face off against each other and seeing the size difference a little bit. I changed my mind and I went over to Carlos Prates by knockout. I didn't pick it for round 2. I thought it was going to be round 3, but Carlos Prates went in there and he got a second round knockout over Leon Edwards. He dropped the first round, lost the striking exchanges in the first round, I think, and then got out-grappled for a lot of the fight. He was making faces. He was kind of taunting Leon Edwards, talking to him, taunting the crowd, saying, "Why is this guy grappling with me? This is boring." And eventually that worked. They got separated. They had to stand up again at the second round, and then he lined up a beautiful shot, kind of stepped off to the side, got his footwork perfectly lined up, then blasted a punch right down the middle, right through the guard, and landed perfectly right on the chin and knocked Leon Edwards clean out. The way his body hit the canvas, oh, it was almost like the UFC 5 video game. You know, when you knock somebody out in UFC 5 and their body like crumples up on the ground and you're like, what is that? That's not real physics. Almost like that, man. Leon's body hit the ground in a pretty violent fashion, and that was a beautiful KO. Again, one of the best KOs of the year. Not Carlos Prates' best KO of the year, though. I think the one that he hit with 1 second left in the first round, the spinning back elbow, that one I think was his best KO of the year. But this one was still very impressive. Of course, being over a former world champion as well, that just elevates the performance even more. Moving on, we had another welterweight bout between Sean Brady and Michael Morales. And going into this one, I said on paper, Sean Brady looks like he should win this fight. He's got a little bit more experience. He's fought a few more high-level guys than Morales has. And he has more techniques. He has more skills. He has a phenomenal jiu-jitsu game, maybe the best jiu-jitsu in the sport. It's hard to argue that, but he's up there. He's got great wrestling too. He's not, lacking in that department either. He's got pretty good stand-up. He's got good boxing, and he has tremendous volume. He's got amazing heart, one of the best gas tanks in the entire sport, and really on paper he should win this fight. But I said in my prediction video, I'm taking Morales by first round KO because this kid is super special. He's a physical phenom. You look at his physique and it's just like, damn, like that's just genetics, man. That kid's got superior genetics for sure. He comes into this fight with a really different stance. He's kind of crouching down, knees low, but he still has the height level on Brady because they list him at 6 feet, but I think Morales is a little bit taller than that. He's got a longer reach than Prates, which kind of blows my mind because Prates has these super long, lanky limbs, but Morales looks like a well-built individual. I can't believe he makes 170 pounds. That's crazy to me. Anyways, comes into this fight, great stance, and I called it, man. I said first round KO because this kid has some of the best hands in the UFC. I said in my prediction video, I know some people were probably upset about it, but I think he has maybe even better boxing than JDM. I watched the way he puts combinations together, his shot selection, the way he's calm under pressure, and the power he has in his hands is something that I don't think Jack has. Jack has great power, don't get me wrong. He can end a fight with one shot, he can rip the body super hard, but Morales has a little bit more X factor in his shots. He has a little bit more pop, a little bit more sting. And you saw that in this fight, man. He put it on Brady. He came after him. He was looking for that knockout shot. He stalked him, walked him down, didn't give him any room. And his physical presence just took over the fight immediately. And when he was finding his shots, man, this kid's a great boxer, truly. It's hard to say who's the best boxer in the UFC. We can have that debate all day long. I think it's Ilia Topuria. Some people might think it's Jack. Some people might think it's, I don't know, maybe you think it's Carlos Prates or someone. I don't know. There's no really wrong answer, but I think Michael Morales is somebody who we need to start talking about as one of the best boxers in the UFC, because I think if you put him in there against Prates, if you put him in there against Jack Della Maddalena, I think he might be able to knock both of those guys out. I don't know yet. We'll have to see. Moraes is weird because he just knocked out Brady and Burns in the first round. We didn't get to see him fight that much. We'll see what he does in his next performance. But yeah, this kid's super, super talented. And at only 26 years old, like the sky's the limit for him. If he does challenge for the belt next, somehow finds a way to knock out Islam Makhachev, this guy could go on the run and become the greatest fighter of all time. He has that potential baked into him right now because he has the undefeated record. He's right there on the cusp of challenging for the belt. And if he beats the pound-for-pound best fighter on the planet, which he has the attributes to do it, does he have the experience? No. Islam has way more experience. Does he have the wrestling skill? No. If Islam wants to take him down, he'll probably be able to take him down. But Moraes has the physicality. Morales has a physique and a strength to him that I don't think Islam has. I think his boxing and the power that he has in his hands could pose a threat. This kid's truly special. I'm a big, big fan of him, and I thought he put on a fantastic performance. I love him on the mic. He's very calm, cool. He's got some swagger and some style to him. I like him, man. As he starts to speak a little bit more English, I think he's going to become an absolute superstar around the world. Hopefully he continues on this path of knocking people out. So moving on, we had our women's flyweight title on the line, the co-main event between Valentina Shevchenko and Weili Zhang. And going into this fight, man, I was so nervous. I was so damn nervous because I thought this fight was 50-50 just like the rest of you. I think everybody thought this fight was 50-50. I think you look at the records are very similar. You know, Weili has the 2 losses to Rose Namajunas, one of the greatest women's fighters of all time. Valentina Shevchenko has 2 losses to Amanda Nunes, literally the greatest women's fighter of all time. Maybe that changes at last night's performance. I don't know. It's up to you guys. But yeah, both of them have 2 losses to 2 of the greats. Valentina obviously had the 1 loss to Grasso, but came back, avenged it in the second fight. I thought she won the second fight. Definitely won the third fight, clearly, dominantly. And yeah, both of these women just have amazing records. They had so many title defenses, Valentina with a few more, but both of them have so many knockouts, so many submissions. They're both so well-rounded. And you thought going into this fight that it was going to be kind of a 50-50 coin toss of a fight. I was picking Valentina because I'm a big fan of her. I've been watching her since she first came into the UFC. She was the first women's fighter that I fell in love with, and I'm still in love with her to this day. And that was another performance that just made my love even stronger. And it was one-sided, man. There was nothing that Weili had for her. She landed maybe 2 or 3 clean shots on Valentina, but that was it. That was it. She really didn't get anything off at all. When she started punching, she was way out of range. Valentina looked way bigger than her. She was more calm, more composed, more accurate with her striking. When it came to the clinch, she was stronger. She just threw Weili around, always ended up on top. And then on the ground, she held her down. I didn't think she was going to be able to do that. I thought Weili is so damn strong, she's going to be able to get up. But no. She got held down and controlled by Valentina Shevchenko, which was so damn impressive to me. Valentina landed 5 out of 6 of her takedowns, which is incredible. She becomes the first women's fighter to land 60 or more takedowns in her career. Again, just solidifying her as the GOAT in my opinion. She had 41 significant strikes to Weili's 32 and 137 total strikes to Weili's 80. And she improves her record to 26-4 and 1. And Weili improves her record, well, doesn't improve, I guess disproves her record or decreases her record to 26-4. So they're both sitting at 26-4 now after this fight. I thought that was kind of a cool little fact, but yeah, man, Valentina Shevchenko, I'm so in love with this woman. I think that she's one of the most attractive women on the planet, not just for her look. She's obviously a very beautiful lady, but the fact that she speaks like 17 languages, she shoots all these different guns, she knows all of the martial arts, and she's perfected all of them. She's just such an inspiring lady. She's like one of the women that I'm going to present to my daughters one day as a hero figure, as someone that you should look up to and try to emulate and try to be like. Because Valentina Shevchenko, she's the epitome of martial arts. Like, she perfectly exemplifies what it means to be a martial artist. And she showed that throughout the fight. She showed that in her class all throughout fight week. She's so classy, so nice to all the fighters, so nice to the interviewers, very straightforward and respectful, and then gracious in her wins as well. And I love her, man. She's one of my favorite fighters of all time. And another fantastic performance. I wasn't expecting that one-sided of a performance. I thought it was going to be a firefight. I thought it was going to be back and forth. I thought it was going to turn into a war. But no, it was an absolutely one-sided masterpiece, masterclass by Valentina Shevchenko. And yeah, I don't have anything else to say other than that. It was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen by a woman. So moving on, we had our main event, which was the welterweight title belt on the line between Jack Della Maddalena and Islam Makhachev. Jack famously not losing in, I think, like 10 years or something like that. His first couple fights were losses, and then he hasn't lost in forever, going on this amazing streak, boxing people up, ripping the body. One of the best punchers we've ever seen in the sport. Boxing-wise, boxing and punching are two different things. Boxing-wise, like I said, I think he's a tad bit overrated in his boxing, but that's just because I love the sport of boxing. I follow the sport of boxing. I probably know the sport of boxing even better than I know the sport of MMA. And when I watch Jack, I see a couple flaws in his game. I'm not going to break them down here, but Jack coming into this fight, man, I just didn't see any way that he was going to win it. I even called in my prediction video that Islam Makhachev might outbox Jack Della Maddalena, and he did at moments in the fight, but he didn't choose to box. I thought maybe he was going to choose to stand up and show us that he's the better boxer, but I think Khabib wrestled him in and made sure Islam fought the father's plan fight, which is not always the most entertaining for the fans, but it is the most dominant way to win, and that's what Islam came out there and did. He showed that there's just levels in the sport, that there's just gaps. And going into this fight, I thought there was a gap. I thought like there's a huge skill gap here, and that showed. You know, he took him down at will, took him down within the first minute and a half, and really just held him down the rest of the round. Every single time he got a takedown, Jack couldn't get up. Jack couldn't do anything in response. He couldn't throw up any submissions. He couldn't throw up any ground and pound from the bottom. He couldn't even escape, really. All because Islam Makhachev's wrestling and control are on a completely different level than Belal Muhammad's. I said it in my prediction video, and I will say it forever. The difference between wrestling between Islam Makhachev and Belal Muhammad is exponential. They are worlds apart, and you saw it in the performance last night compared to the performance that Bilal had against JDM. JDM kept him off of his legs, got up every time, boxed Bilal Muhammad up, and dominated that fight completely. Against Islam, a guy who's shorter, right, smaller, coming up from 155. He's the same height as Bilal Muhammad, though. He comes up as the smaller fighter and absolutely dominates Jack and controls him everywhere. So you see the levels of wrestling there. You see that Islam is far beyond what Bilal Muhammad is. If there's another wrestler in the UFC that I think's on the level of Islam, it would either be Merab or maybe Khamzat Chimaev. Those are the only two that I can say are close to Islam. Even his little cousin there, Umar. Umar's not on the level of Islam when it comes to the wrestling. He's fantastic, don't get me wrong. He's up there. Top 5, top 6 wrestlers in the UFC. But I don't think Umar's quite on the level of Islam. Islam really showed in this fight that he is the best wrestler right now in the UFC, especially going up a weight class and dominating like that. Until Merab goes up a weight class and does the same thing to people at featherweight, I'm going to say it's Islam. I'm going to say Islam's the best wrestler in the UFC. But you could say Merab and you're probably equally as right. What else do I want to highlight in this fight? How about total strikes? Jack Della Maddalena, 30. Islam, 140. Significant strikes, 18 for Jack and 30 for Islam. Islam only needed 4 takedowns in this fight, despite having ground control time in every single round, and I think amounting over 20 minutes of ground control time in the entire fight, something like that. Crazy. Another thing to highlight is the kickboxing. So Islam did outstrike Jack on the feet, but it wasn't so much with the boxing as I predicted in my prediction video. He actually came out there with the kicks. His kicks were way faster than Jack's, way stronger and more precise. He went to the body a few times and really got Jack rocked with the body shots. I mean, not like rocked like he was going to fall over, but you could tell Jack was grimacing. He hit him with some good shots to the ribs. He also lit up his legs. The front leg there, I think it was his left leg. I can't remember which leg was damaged, but it was beat up super bad from Islam's leg kicks. Now, I never really knew Islam to be the best leg kicker in his division, but now he's looking like one of the best leg kickers in the sport. For him to land, what was it? It was like 6 or 7 leg kicks. It wasn't that many. And then to do that much damage to Jack's leg, Jack, who's a guy who's known for his striking, that was pretty impressive to me. That was not like Pereira level leg kicks, but that was up there. That was some of the most impressive leg kicks I've seen. And I could just see Islam Makhachev. He's just evolving his game every single time. I thought maybe coming into this fight, he was going to evolve his boxing and come out and show his Canelo hands. I guess he's not Bilal Muhammad, so he worked on his leg kicks instead, and he came out and he showed us that he's a true leg kicker now. He can kick your legs a couple times and shut down one of your legs. That's a new thing for Islam. It's just another tool in his repertoire. So Islam just showed out in this fight, absolutely dominant. He went for the Darce choke a few times. I know he wasn't credited with a submission attempt. I don't know why. He was going for the Darce quite a few times. He even went for the Kimura a couple times, so he was active. You know, he was looking for things. He made it more entertaining, at least, than the Dricus du Plessis versus Khamzat fight. Going into that fight, I had a very similar expectation. You know, I think Khamzat could probably outbox and outstrike Dricus if he wanted to, but then he goes in there and ends up just controlling him on the ground, which is what he's better at, and there was no really way for Dricus to put up with the wrestling of Khamzat, and it was the same going into this fight. You know, I thought maybe Islam could stand on the feet and outstrike JDM. I think he has that in him, but he went to the ground and just grappled him because there's nothing JDM can do to stop that wrestling. You know, training with Craig Jones isn't going to do it. You literally need to go and spend your time in a wrestling room. You don't have to go to Dagestan for 2 or 3 years. That's not necessary. It's probably the best option, but it's not necessary. You could go to Georgia, like Ilya said, or you can go to Penn State, train with Bo Nickel, train with somebody in the U.S. Just go to a wrestling room. Go to a true wrestling room and spend 6 months in there and put your whole camp there. Like, if you're going to fight a Dagestani fighter, put your entire camp in a wrestling room and just wrestle. You already know how to strike. You've gotten to the UFC. You already know how to strike. So I don't know. I don't think these fighters are doing enough. That's easier said than done, obviously. I'm sitting here with a YouTube channel saying that these fighters aren't doing enough, but they are putting in a lot of effort trying to prepare themselves to stop these Dagestani fighters, especially Islam Makhachev, who's just unbeatable right now. But You got to do more. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Like, there's got to be some way to negate this. There's got to be some way to stop it other than having some sort of Georgian fighter who comes up and has been wrestling just as long as the Dagestanis. There's no Georgian dominant fighter at 170. Like, unless Khamzat Chimaev comes down and tries to fight Islam Makhachev, there's nobody for him at 170. There's a bunch of brilliant strikers. You have Ian Gary. You got Morales, you have Prates, you have Shavkat Rakhmonov, who's a great striker and has some good ground game, but his ground game's not going to be enough to deal with Islam. I don't think so. I think if there's one fighter that is probably the best challenge for Islam, it's probably Rakhmonov, because he has the great grappling and the great striking. But when it comes to the wrestling, I think Islam's going to out-wrestle every single person in this division. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Kamaru Usman can put up a good fight against Islam. I don't know. Maybe that could happen. But from the looks of it, it's gonna be another another few years of Islam absolutely dominating his division. And I hope he clears out 170. I hope eventually Ilia Topuria clears out 155 and then comes up and we get this big super fight of Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. Maybe at 170, maybe at 155. Who knows where it'll happen? But I want to see that fight eventually in the future. I think that's the biggest fight to make in the sport. Bigger than John Jones, Tom Aspinall. Bigger than Khamzat Chimaev and Islam Makhachev. I think the biggest fight to make is Ilia versus Islam. And going into that fight, I honestly don't know who I'd favor. I'm a huge fan of both. I've been a fan of Islam a lot longer, but the recent streak that Ilya's been on makes me more confident in him. It's hard to say, but we'll see what happens in the future here. If Morales gets the next shot at the 170 belt, or if Khamzat wants to come down, or if Ilya wants to go up, we'll see what happens. I'm sure I'll make a prediction video for you guys when those fights are announced. We have UFC 323 coming up soon, the rematch between Petr Yan and Merab Dvalishvili. And then we have Pantoja taking on Joshua Van. Tatsuro Taira fighting Moreno also on that card. That card's really awesome. I can't wait to break down that fight. So I'll have a prediction video out for you guys for that fight in a couple weeks here. And then I'll have my kind of end of the year MMA videos. We'll do our MMA Mystic Fight Awards. We'll do our top fights of 2025 and maybe a couple other end of the year videos for you guys. So stay tuned for those. And if you guys like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends to help boost this channel and the algorithm. Let me know down below in the comments who you guys want to see the next matchups be for Valentina Shevchenko and Islam Makhachev, and the rest of the fighters on the card if you want to as well. And yeah, thank you guys for watching as always. It means the absolute world to me. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.